All right. My next guest is Mark Ross, the host of the Speak Your Truth podcast. He's a Marine Corps veteran. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. My name is Mark Ross. And before I get started, thank you, Tim, for taking the time to invite me onto your show. It's a privilege. So I appreciate it. My name is Mark Ross, and I have a podcast called Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross. The premise of my podcast is to talk about mental health, talk to people and professionals about their dealings with those that are going through mental illness. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I suffer from PTSD, depression. And the reason that I started this journey is because, Tim, I didn't know what I was going through.
Hmm.
When I got out of the Marine Corps, I started to experience nightmares, mood swings, and erratic behavior. I experienced a severe disconnect too. That's something that I talk about a little, but I experienced a severe disconnect from being a civilian, from being a Marine, right? When I came here, I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So when I came back to Milwaukee, my mind, I'm still back in North Carolina. I'm still stationed. I'm still, what I'm saying, I'm a Marine still.
Yeah.
But reality told me that I'm just Mark Ross again.
Yep.
My brain couldn't digest that. I couldn't digest it at all. So I had some anxiety about that.
Yeah. I feel you. So I'm a veteran as well. I was in the Army for quite some time and did some deployments and stuff. And I can totally understand where you're coming from when it's like, okay, now you're back into civilian life. It's like, wait, your identity is gone. And that's just a small part of it. You're trying to integrate all this other stuff you got going on. And it's like, I don't even know who I am right now. Sorry to jump in there, but
Oh no, you're good. I mean, and you said it. You said it all. And surprisingly, Tim, I think a lot of us veterans have experienced that. There was no buffering. There was no transition. It was just one day you're a soldier, the next day you're a civilian.
yeah.
There's, what I'm saying? There's no grace period. It just is. And that was hard.
What were you doing in the Corps?
My MOS was supply, but I really didn't do supply work. For
Yeah.
the 4 years I was there, Tim, I think I did actual supply work for maybe 2 years.
Yeah. I get that. I know the military, you have your MOS and then you actually do what you do. And I was a truck driver, 88 Mike, and I did convoy security and was doing
Yeah.
QRF on it. So it's like you could have your job, you could be a cook, and all of a sudden you're doing some crazy ass job. And, what
Right.
your MOS is, is it necessarily what you're going to be doing? So you got out of the military. What got you into the Corps? What was your upbringing like, and what led you down that path of joining the military?
My upbringing was okay for the most part. My father, my biological father, he and my mother got divorced when I was practically a baby, but he was there for me, I guess, as a father could do. And then he left and moved to Las Vegas. The crazy part about that was I didn't know that he just upped and left. So it left a hole in my heart. But thankfully, I had a man in my life that took after me and loved me as his own son. My father's gone right now. My mother's gone too, but I still look up to him as my father. Now, I do have a relationship with my dad, you know, and I don't hold anything against him because there's no there's no need for me to hold negative feelings or emotions for anybody or anything. So I let that go. Me and him are cool. I don't talk to him as much, but we're cool. What led me down going to the military, Tim, was that I really didn't see me doing anything as a 17-year-old adult
Yeah.
here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. At the time, I just didn't think that working in a factory or going to college was something for me at the time. I didn't want to do neither of those things, right?
Yeah.
So I had to ask myself, what are my options? So I figured, well, I'll just go in the military. So I initially tried to get into the Army, and that didn't work out. So, and so I later attempted with the Marines, and yeah, it. I guess the rest was history.
But you must have been pretty strong because I went the opposite route. I didn't go in the Marines. I went in the armies.
Yeah, man.
Did you know anybody in the military before that, or did you just go down to the recruiting office and
Yeah,
go?
yeah, I did. My high school was just south of the recruiting station, so I always knew it was there. So in the end of my junior year, going to my senior year of high school, I approached the recruiters. I went to the Army first. I didn't pass the test, which was okay. Later, I went to the Marine recruiting office and I spoke with them and I took the test and I passed. And he asked me if this is something that I really wanted to do. I said, absolutely. And I asked him some questions. I asked him one question in particular. I said, what am I going to expect when I get into boot camp? And I can tell you his face changed. He turned a little pale and his demeanor changed too. And he said, you really want to know what to expect? I said, yeah. He said, okay. He said, do you work out? I said, a little bit here and there. He was like, that's not enough.
Yeah,
You need to work out every day,
yeah.
every day. And he said, even then, it won't be enough. That's how much you need to work out.
And he was
And
probably
that
right.
won't be enough.
How long before you signed up, before you shipped off?
I left in September of 87. I was already sworn in, I think around uh, May or June.
Yeah.
I was just waiting to finish high school.
Yeah. Okay. So you signed up before you even graduated.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right. So what you
Yeah.
said you couldn't get in, you didn't pass the Army test. Was that the ASVAB or?
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to take it. I just took it on the
Yeah.
fly, you know.
That's a weird test, man. I failed that thing so many times. Literally, I think I needed a 42 to get in, and I think I scored like a 43 or something. I mean, that's barely squeaked
Barely
by.
got in. Yeah.
Yeah, and but it's like I don't understand what they're really looking for in those tests because I've served with so many guys, some of the smartest guys you would ever meet, and then some, not so smart. And it's like your intellect, yeah, you got to have intellect, but I don't think that ASVAB really is a good measure of what makes a good soldier. So
I
I don't
agree.
know if they could change that somehow one of these days, but I failed that thing over and over.
I was fortunate to only take it twice.
I think I took it about 4 times. I don't think they were gonna let me take it again. So,
Gracious, man.
your podcast, can you touch on that a little bit? Like, what got you started in that, and kind of what's your angle, or what are you looking to do on that?
Sure. I got the idea of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross, my journey, the journey of me learning what PTSD is, the journey of the things that veterans go through, the opportunities and the benefits that we as veterans don't know that we're privy to. My ups and downs in dealing with the VA system, those were the things that really stood out to me in my learning and in my growth. And this is the most important, that I realized that I was not alone in my struggle, that there were many veterans like me who suffered. There are many of us that are still suffering. 22 veterans commit suicide on a daily basis.
Mhm.
I don't think people truly understand the measure of that.
Yeah.
I was almost one of those numbers. I was down and out to a point where I did want to take my life too. And I didn't have the courage to, take a gun out and pull the trigger or, take stuff to put me to sleep and didn't wake up. I'd rather just do it, drunk in a car accident or some shit because I was what you would call a working alcoholic at the time because that's how I dealt with my issues. I drank. And on the weekends, Tim, I just drank to pass out. I didn't want to remember nothing. Right. So with all those memories and all the things that I went through, I wanted to reach out to other people and get an idea of what their struggle was in dealing with mental illness and dealing with their well-being, right? So that led me down the road to doing it. And this past Wednesday marks my first year of
Sobriety.
officially doing the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast.
Congratulations. That's a feat. Most people don't make it, they do a couple episodes and they're like, that's it. Too hard. I think I'm on like episode 12 or something. And I'm kind of right there with you. It's a pain in the ass when you get started to figure all this technology out and how to
There is, bro.
edit and do all this stuff.
There is.
Yeah, congratulations on sticking it out. And I love what you're doing. I've listened to it, and what you're doing is very heartfelt, and that's what people are looking for is authenticity. And so, yeah, with the VA, man, so you're able to get in with those guys. Have you navigated that system okay? And are they helping you out there? Or
One of the best things that I've done for myself, Tim, was really first admit that I was dealing with something that I couldn't control.
Mhm.
One of my coworkers at this job that I worked at, he was a veteran, and he really put the spark in my heart to really pursue therapy. He gave me this pamphlet and he told me just to read it. He didn't tell me to call him and talk to him about it. He said, just read it. The next time I see you, I want you to tell me what you think of this pamphlet. I'm like, okay. So I took the pamphlet and I read it, and it was about PTSD.
Mhm.
And it listed all these symptoms that people have about this disorder. And it was about 12 to maybe 15 symptoms. And I had like at about 10 to 12 of them. I'm experiencing them, or I'm experiencing those symptoms. And I told him about it next time I saw him, and he recommended me to go and get treatment. So after some conflict of thought, I
Mhm.
looked on it and I did it. And I'm gonna tell you, Tim, that was the best thing that I could have done for myself, because, like I said, it led me to a path of self-discovery. It led me to understand what it was that I was really dealing with. It led me also to understand that I wasn't alone.
Mhm.
I'm not on this island by myself as a veteran dealing with PTSD, that there are many others like you and I that are dealing with something.
Yeah.
So
Were you doing like group therapy or one-on-one stuff?
both. I did both.
Both. Yeah.
Mhm.
See, I've always been, man, I go to the VA, I do what I got to do, and then I leave and I'm like, I don't want, I just don't want any part of that. I don't know if it's just being at the VA gives me more PTSD than not. But maybe that's just my own shitty mentality and I need to fix that. But, I've been working with some other stuff to try to, you know, improve mental health, but I've tried therapy outside and medication and you name it. And alcohol has always been a good one for me to help cover up
Mhm.
that trauma and stuff like that. Definitely not the way to go for sure. Mass things. Usually they're going to lure their ugly head out at you and it's not going to be good like
Exactly,
that.
brother. And that's what I
So,
did. I
yeah,
masked. I masked it all. I convinced my family, I convinced my friends that I was okay, but in my heart, man, I was not.
yeah. You can walk around looking just like this, smiling, and inside you're just being ripped apart. And there's so many guys out there who are dealing with that and won't talk about it. You try to talk to them or hey man, maybe you should, get some help or whatever. And it's like, nope, they're not going to do it. And I think just every once in a while, I'll have guys, that open up and they'll talk to you. And once you start getting past that, line of resistance, you talk to them, it's like, dude, but you're not alone. You are with everybody else. We're all dealing with the same shit and don't feel bad about it. It doesn't mean you're weak or anything like that. It just means that, you're dealing with some shit.
That's it. You're dealing with
Yeah.
something that you can't control, brother.
Yeah.
So reach out. Reach out.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm here for.
Yep. That's what I'm trying to do. My podcast is kind of all over the place. I did 10 years of law enforcement and then the military, everything revolves around trying to help people and help men, especially men. Women need help, but they have such a better community of women that are willing to sit down and listen to each other, and guys
Mm,
just don't have that.
mhm.
So,
We
but
don't.
I am seeing that change, which is good. Guys are slowly starting to come around and be like,
Mhm.
we could talk about.
We need that safe space to vent and to talk about issues that really affect us.
Mhm. Not to change the subject on you, but were you in corrections as well?
Yes, I spent 15, 16 years as a corrections officer.
All right.
I spent the last 2 years as a corrections lieutenant before I retired.
Oh, so you're retired now? Congratulations.
Mm.
My brother-in-law and my sister are both in corrections, and so I'm slightly familiar with that, and I hear some of their stories, and that's a man, that job will give you PTSD too. It's like you're
Yeah.
walking around on eggshells 24/7. It's like being in prison, but you get to go
Yeah.
home.
I used to tell the guys, I said, I used to tell them like, look, I I feel like one of you guys because I'm working, 8 to 16 hours almost every day. I'm seeing you guys more than I'm seeing my family. And so it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I feel like I'm one of you.
Yeah.
And the only difference between you and I is that I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Good caught.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, we all done dumb shit before, but I didn't get caught.
Yep.
You got caught. So
Yep.
I get to go home, despite me being here all day, but I get to go home.
Yeah, and I don't know what's worse. I mean, I would go into the jail, so I was in a county sheriff's department, but just even going into the jail, I'm like, "Get me the fuck out of here." Like, just like, you're in jail. It doesn't matter
You're
that
right.
you could leave,
Yeah.
I guess, it's
Right.
like, no, you're dealing with the same people as everybody else in there. That's
The atmosphere
crazy.
was horrible, man.
What do you think about the prison system? Is it need to be reformed, or are they doing the best they can, or
That's a good question. Tim, from my experience in working in the jails and whatnot, there needs to be some sort of reform. And when I mean reform, I mean provide those guys with access to education,
Mhm.
provide them with some sort of access to learning a craft or a trade or something, because just housing people because they did a crime, petty or not,
Yeah.
it doesn't help them as it relates to us because we're still paying taxes for them being there. The
Mhm.
goal is for them not to go back in there. So we need to instill in those guys motivational techniques, educational opportunities, you know, just better life decisions.
Mhm.
A lot of those guys, Tim, don't have the mental capacity. And I'm gonna keep it real with you. I think that a lot of those guys, they don't have the mental capacity to make good decisions based on their lifestyles.
Yeah. Yep.
If you have people that will go in to these institutions, Tim, and teach them and show them that yes, there is a better way to live. There is a better way to uplift yourself. Then we're planting the seeds into these guys to make them think like, yo, doing drugs and doing this petty shit, this isn't it.
Yeah.
Because all this is going to do for me is put me back in here.
Yep.
Have these taxpayers spend their hard-earned dollars on my dumb ass because I keep making the same dumb decisions to do petty shit and get locked up and do all this necessary time when I could be out there doing positive and productive stuff.
Yep.
You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what
For sure.
that's what needs to happen in these institutions. And while I was there, Tim, I was one of those guys that actually spoke to these guys and tell them, look, you guys are in here for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't care.
Mhm.
But while you're in here, make plans on not coming back.
Mhm.
If that means getting 2 jobs, if that means going back to school, do
Yeah.
it. Make a
It
plan, do the plan. Don't bring your ass back here. I don't want to see you here. You And I would tell
It,
them just like that, I don't want to see you.
it's so hard though. You see these guys and they're in there, and some of them they come in just drugged out of their mind, and they're addicted, and maybe they spend 3 to 6 months in jail, and they're clean, they're sober, they look good, and then we just open the door and good luck. And there's where are they going to go? Most of these people have burned every bridge they have, so
Every
they have
yes,
nowhere to go. No, it's like, man, if you could just give these guys, 3 to 6 months of a stable place to live and an opportunity to have a job. And I know not everybody's going to take that opportunity, but some of them
right,
would,
right,
and within, a week, so some are less than that. They're right back in there because it's like, well, you walk out the door, what are you going to do? You go to Walmart, I need some new shoes, jack some shoes and, whatever. And you're right back where you started. And
yes, sir.
so,
It's rough, Tim, but I have to stay on the high road with this. There are things that these guys can do instead of doing the dumb things to get themselves locked up.
yeah.
It boils down to a choice.
Mhm.
Do I choose to stay on this path, or do I choose to take a different path? And if you choose to take a different path, it may not be easy,
But
but the end game for you will be that you're better off as a man or a woman, than you were if you took the low road.
mm,
I mean, if everything was easy, everybody would be doing it,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, most things are not easy. I grind my ass into the ground to provide for my family, and I mean, it's not easy, but
Oh,
uh, it's kind of ties into even the military guys getting out of the military. There's so many guys they get out and they're kind of lost and don't know, like they didn't make a plan, and so they're just dumped onto this street or move back in with mom and dad or whatever they're doing. And I think that's where a lot of this depression and anxiety comes from because it's like you've lost your identity. You don't know what to do now. You're going to go to college and use the GI Bill. And it's like you go sit in a class with a bunch of morons. And like, I don't want to be around these people.
I
And you're a
get it.
soldier coming out of a war or some shit like that. You're looking around like, even at 22, 24, your mentality is way up
Yes.
here and you're dealing with 19-year-olds. And so I don't
Mm,
know if they need to make the transition
mm,
process a little bit longer when you get out of the military. It's like, okay,
mm,
you're gonna get out, but we're gonna offer you these things to keep you occupied while you're transitioning. So
mm,
yeah. Man, I,
mm.
I love what you're doing though. I love that you're spreading the good word, man. There's so many guys that need to hear this message. So
Yeah. I just hope that what we're talking about can really go out there and really, gnaw into the minds of veterans and, women and men that have served you know, to really understand that you're not alone. And to the guys that were locked up, you don't have to stay locked up in your mind.
mhm.
You don't. You have options. You really do.
So can I ask you a personal question? You quit drinking? For the
Well,
most
I used drinking as a way to cope. It didn't become my lifestyle. So I knew when to turn it off,
Mhm,
but I did it as a means of making the pain go away,
mhm,
making the anxiety go away. And once I realized what I was dealing with, Tim, that made me put a lot of things in perspective. And one of the things that it gave me perspective on was power.
yeah,
I gave it power. I didn't I didn't have any power for myself because I gave it away. Once I realized that I was dealing with this thing called PTSD and that I was killing myself with my reckless living and just my carelessness, I had to take that power back. And it was through self discovery. It was through going through those group sessions. It was going through those one on one sessions. It even took me getting placed in the VA hospital for a couple of months at their inpatient treatment facility there for veterans that were suffering from PTSD. I learned such a great deal from those experiences that I realized that I do have power, that we give it away. But when we take it back, that doesn't control us anymore.
Yep.
We control it.
Yep. No, I like that because I mean, I've been kind of over the last 20 years, I've never had a alcohol problem where it's like, man, I got to go have a drink. But,
Right.
you know, if I'm going out to Mexican food with some friends, I'm having 3 or 4 margaritas.
Yeah.
A lot of that has to do with like just being uncomfortable around people or not being comfortable in my own skin. The alcohol helps mask that. I still drink. I definitely don't drink like I used to, but now I'll drink wine, and there's nothing good about that either. It's all the same shit, but it's fancier when you're drinking it and people don't judge you as much. Yeah, I mean, I took it from up here to a reasonable level now and have kids, and so I don't get all saucy like I used to. But some people, it's a massive problem, you know? They can't drink anything. It will control their life, and then there's other people like you and I who I don't feel like it controls my life, but it can make me make some bad choices, and it definitely doesn't improve certain situations when you're dealing with stress or fighting, you know, arguing with your wife or whatever, you know, it just makes things worse. So gotta use it for funsies, not to mask the pain. Man, you got anything else you want to share with me?
Well, other than my podcast, when we talk about men's well-being, I am a part of this group called Brim and Smoke. I want to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
It's a local group here in Milwaukee that myself and my partner, we started. And it caters to what you talked about in terms of men getting together and having a safe spaced, open-ended conversation about particular things that we need to get out. You know, we as men tend to hold a lot of things inside, and we hold it in for so long that when it comes out, it becomes something worse than what it needs to be. And we let it out on those that are innocent as well.
Yep.
So we've created this safe space we call Brim and Smoke because, you know, we're into cigars. So
Nice.
we smoke our cigars, have our little sips, and we just chop it up, and then we have good conversations. And we also have a Facebook page, Brim and Smoke, where we just post good stuff, relationship-based material, and brother smoking cigars, you know?
Right. Are most of these guys veterans or just friends?
Just people,
guys.
you know, just regular
That's
guys,
awesome.
man. Some are
Just sitting
veterans,
around bullshitting, smoking cigars, and
yeah.
I like it. That's what that's what guys need, a community, you know, they really do. And, you know, the military provides that. But once you're out, you know, guys have jobs and families and they lose out on that community. So the fact that you're doing that, that's freaking awesome. And I applaud you for doing that, man.
Thank you much. Thank you. For those that are interested in sharing your story, my email is speakyourtruthpc@gmail.com. It's all one word, speakyourtruthpc@gmail.com. If you guys want to speak with me, come on the show, send me an email, say hi, you know, give me a thumbs up, let me know how you guys are doing, especially for the veterans. I want to speak to more veterans. So that's my email. Hit me up. I will respond.
You got any social media or you stay away from that?
I am also, my podcast is on YouTube and I put it on Spotify, Facebook. My name is Mark Ross.
Okay.
You guys can look me up and let's just go from there. Like I said, we have the Facebook page, Brim and Smoke.
I will tag you and all of that stuff, man. I love what you're doing. I totally appreciate you coming on, especially on a Sunday morning, you know, football's on.
It's all good.
Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'll get this put out and I'll tag you and everything. People can reach out to you and watch your
All right.
podcast too. All right.
Thank you so much, man.